Hello. Welcome to Happy Hour, everybody. It is great to be here. I almost was not here, let me tell you that. We had a few tech problems this afternoon. You've probably heard Facebook is overloaded, the internet is overloaded, Telstra 4G, Zoom, all of the above. So the fact that we're here and you can hopefully see me and hopefully hear me is a big achievement for today. And very soon I am going to welcome on our very special guest, Reena Van Alst, live and here in person with us today. But before I do that, I would love to know who is here, where are you coming to me from, where are you working away in your home offices, the end of a busy week in Strata. My gosh, lots of change, lots of challenges. Give me a thumbs up to let me know that here. Post in the comments to let me know where you are. Are you a Strata manager? Are you an owner? Are you a committee member? Are you just a Facebook Live fan? Would love to know who we've got with us today. We had lots of you registered for today's event. The other thing that I want to make sure is that I'm seeing your comments come through on our stream that we've got here using this particular software. I'm just going to flick over to different screens because I can see some other things happening here that I can't see on my other screen. So sorry. Sorry about that, guys. Sometimes the comments come through on the software and sometimes they don't, and we just have to do a little bit of flicking. All right, awesome. I am seeing Henry. Henry is in Melbourne. Awesome. Thank you for joining us again, Henry. I know there's some other comments there, but I'll just wait for them to come through on my side as well. How have you been, guys? There is a lot going on, isn't there? We're going to get into some discussion about how we can best help you, Strata managers, owners, during this difficult time. Reena and I have a few challenges that we want to share with you. As you know, on our podcast episodes, we go through our wins and our challenges, and I'm sure that you are also going through some very similar challenges. I would like to send a special thank you to Nikki from Look Up Strata. Many of you will know Nikki and will subscribe to her amazing newsletter. I think she sends it out a few times a week now. I was going to say weekly, but so much going on in our space that she sends that one out a few times a week. Nikki has been mentioning our Friday happy hours and our Facebook page, and I want to say thank you. If you don't subscribe to Nikki's newsletter, make sure you go and do that. She's got an active Facebook page as well. It's called Look Up Strata, and type that into Facebook and you will find Nikki, and she is an excellent curator of all things important when it comes to apartment living. If you are watching this and you do have a page like Look Up Strata, or a page that you have owners who are looking at, you're a Strata management company and you want to share some good information with owners who I know are anxious for it at this point in time, feel free to share this. There's a button where you can share a live across to another page. Feel free to do that. The more people that we can reach and help, the better, as far as I'm concerned. So if you're coming in, give me a hi. It's great to know who's here. I'm working off a laptop at the moment where I get the most internet, and I am flicking between screens. So I'm sorry if I'm missing your comments. I can see Sean saying hello. I can see Doug, who is in Canberra. I can see, Nikki's here, fabulous. So good to see you. Thank you, Nikki. I can see Michelle, who has wine and chili chips. What did you bring to happy hour? Michelle brought wine and chili chips. That is awesome. Sean is drinking a Corona. Oh dear. Thanks, Sean. Thanks for sharing that. Enjoy. And awesome. All awesome. So good to see you all. I'll be interested to hear how your weeks have been and what your questions are. But right now, I think I'm going to welcome in our very special guest, Reena Van Alst, and we are going to give you a little behind the scenes on how we record podcasts. That's the plan anyway. I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to share my screen with you and share a few things. But let's bring her on, who you know and love so well. I'm going to press a few buttons here. I'm then going to do this, and she's going to appear in 1 second.
Hello, everybody.
Hello. She's here. Magic. It works. Awesome. So lovely to see you, Reena. How are you?
Good, thank you, Amanda. How are you?
I'm good. I am tired, which you might be able to see on this video. I am tired. It has been a big, busy week. A few long hours, lots of questions to answer, lots of people to help. And I was going to say I'm looking forward to the weekend, but you know what? I've been home all week with my son. So usually you have kids at school and you enjoy Fridays and the kids come home and it's nice to look forward to the weekend, spend time with family. I've spent enough time with family this week, okay? Just saying.
I mentioned on that note, Amanda, that one of my community members sent me the coronavirus rhapsody, which is the Queen Rhapsody, and it talks about being sick of your family. Sorry.
It's literally day 4. I'm a little bit worried. I'd like to know how you guys are feeling about that. Being home with kids, being home with family, maybe in smaller spaces than usual, not having your downtime, your social time. But that's what we're here for today, to be your people with you. I'm seeing Jess. Hey, lovely to see you with wine and cheese. Nikki saying that's exactly how we feel at Look Up Strata. Not sure, you're tired, the tired bit. I know Nikki answering lots of questions. Barbara is in Concord. Awesome. Hi, Ronnie. Michelle is saying, Sean, maybe that's the antidote to the virus. Yes, the Corona beer. We'll see. Awesome. All right. Now, Reena, I'm not sure about your mic there, just because we have done this at the last minute. I'm not getting your usual podcasting mic. I'm just getting you on your system. So if there's an option there for you to choose a different mic. So this is the behind the scenes of the podcast.
Using it. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm still on your system. I'm not on your road. This is exactly how the podcast goes, guys. I told you were going to get behind the scenes.
Can you hear me now, Amanda?
You're still on your system.
Yeah, but when I put on the Rod podcast, I actually end up, then I can't hear you.
Ah, the joys. Okay, no, this is fine. You're just a bit distant.
Yeah, let's have a look.
Have a fiddle. I'll keep pushing on. So yes, I told you we were going to give you a behind the scenes. This is part of it. What we do is record our episodes online. We see each other in person quite often, but we record our episodes online, and we do that using Zoom. Usually using Zoom, but Zoom's not working today because everybody is using Zoom. The world is using Zoom. They've all discovered it, and they've taken our with. And we haven't been able to use our usual program. So that's why things may be sounding a little bit different, but we're here. Hi, Megan. Lovely to see you. Hi, Natalie. Lovely to see you too. And we log on, we see each other, we hear each other, and we have a spreadsheet, what I call the famous spreadsheet. A lot of people ask us, do you prepare? Do you practice? Do you run through it first and then do it again? No, we don't have time for that. We're busy Strata professionals. We have a spreadsheet, which I'm going to try and show you, that we put our ideas into, and we just run off the spreadsheet. I'm now pressing buttons to try and make the spreadsheet appear. I'm not sure if that's going to work right now. Reena, we've been doing this for a couple of years, doing our co-hosting. How have you found it? Tell everybody about your experience from not doing the podcast to all of a sudden being thrust in the deep end and being my co-host.
Yes, it is actually quite interesting because I'm actually not in. I like being on the podcast with you, Amanda, but then there's always the editing that happens in the background. So this is actually quite live, and I'm thinking, wow, I hope I don't make any mistakes or bloopers like we always do.
Yes, that's a very good point. We do edit. Not much though. Podcast Pete is our editor, and he takes out the swear words when they happen, and tidies up a few things if we're into some deep legislation or a rather critical issue that we want to get right, and it's something that we do have to look up later and make sure that, you know, I've said it's the right section of the Act, there might be things like that. But otherwise, we really don't do too much editing. I'm not going to be able to share my oh, actually, no, I can. Let's try this. Let's see what happens here, guys. I'm pressing some buttons. I thought I might have to restart to share this with you. Okay. Can you see here an Excel spreadsheet? Is everybody seeing that?
No, I can't see it, Amanda.
You're seeing yourself, and I can't see to check. But I'm wondering if you're seeing this. This is the famous spreadsheet, and we just put our ideas here in the spreadsheet: the win, the challenge, the win, and the challenge for each of us. And often the first time that I'm seeing Reena's challenge is when we're recording, and I'm looking at this. And Reena's seeing my challenge when we're recording and looking at this. So we do definitely do it on the run. I'm pretty sure I am sharing this because I can see a little symbol here that says, we're sharing a window. And it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun, and we get lots of fabulous emails saying how helpful it is for people, how practical it is. And that just fills up my heart. That's what I love to do. And it is an easy way for us. We, as I say, we live and breathe. I'm getting a lot of no's. We can't see the spreadsheet. I tried, guys. Let's do it next week. You know, you gotta let some things go. Yeah, as I said, it's an easy way for us to share our knowledge that we've been doing this for a long time, and we can help you in 5 minutes. Then that is what we are here to do. So there you go. So having said that we have the famous spreadsheet, what we'd like to do for the next 20 minutes or so is run through our challenges and our wins for this week. And they may overlap with some of yours. And then I would really love for you to be posting into the comments section what your questions are, either arising from what we're chatting about or completely different. They don't have to be about the virus, but they can be, because I know there's a lot of questions. They can be about anything. Strata is good if we could keep it to a Strata question. If you have personal questions for me and Reena, we might be happy to answer them. Natalie saying she's loving chill, Amanda. This is not chill, Amanda. This is on the fly, Amanda, who just connected her software 30 seconds before we got on live. And I'm not drinking, guys. I'm not drinking. This is not happy hour, Amanda. Okay. So, Reena, how has your week in Strata been?
Well, it's been very interesting, I'm sure, as it has been for many of our listeners and our colleagues in Strata. So the main challenges that I've had to deal with, apart from the barrage of COVID-19 virus emails from every single supplier, every lawyer, every accountant, every single person telling you what they're doing and how important their team is, and et cetera, which is all wonderful. I've had some owners in one of my buildings complain about short-term letting, and they said that how can we stop people doing that, because they're fearing that there's some residents who are English, which I hate to say, I mean, it doesn't really matter where they're from, but they're worried that people are now using their Airbnb apartments for people to be self-isolating. And they've actually asked me, Amanda, for some advice on how they can sort of find out whether that person is self-isolating. And you may have heard today our Prime Minister mention that anyone that now arrives in the country has to go into 14-day isolation straight away from anywhere in the world. So I wasn't sure if that's with the new legislation requirements you're talking about for short-term letting, Amanda. That was on your webinar on Tuesday that you shared with us. What sort of comments you might come up with in terms of those types of very well-founded fears, I must say, because I think with owners now, the rental market's sort of being affected by the COVID virus 19. What's up?
Yeah, really good question. And I believe that this was discussed in the AFR last weekend. I think it might have been Jimmy Thompson writing about it.
Mm.
Our apartments being used or promoted, actually, advertised by Airbnb as great places to go and self-isolate. And the webinar you're talking about, Reena, was a members-only webinar. So if you're watching this and you're not sure, and that was one that I delivered for our Your Strata Property members, joined by Natalie Fitzgerald and Tim Sarah. I can see Tim is here as well. And I did spend 10 minutes just going through the new law that is due to start on the 10th of April this year. We have a commencement date. The new law is this. It's introducing Section 137A into our Strata Schemes Management Act. And it says that owners corporations can pass a bylaw that prevents owners from leasing their properties for short-term rental. Short-term rental being defined as a rental arrangement that's less than 3 months. However, you can only prevent owners where it is not their principal place of residence. So what I've been calling investor owners directly short-term letting their apartments, we're going to be able to pass a bylaw banning them from doing that from the 10th of April 2020. Great, good. There's been a bit of uncertainty around whether bylaws that did that are valid in New South Wales. So we're going to get that certainty in that respect. But what members have been raising with me and others in my inbox have been saying is, Amanda, that's only part of the problem, investor owners. We have a problem in our building where we have the tenant is subletting part of their apartment, so their other bedrooms, or the tenant has signed a long-term lease, but the tenant is not actually there. So they are not strictly captured by this new law, and that is a problem. So I'm not sure in your situation, Reena, whether the person who's asking the question wanting to prevent this from happening in their building, whether it's a lot that is owned by an investor and it is the investor entering into the short-term letting arrangement, because from the 10th of April you can have a bylaw that bans that. If it is the tenant subletting, then it is more difficult. And what else is coming in with this new regime is a code of conduct. We've been hearing about the fair trading code of conduct. That's not ready yet. So that, the last I heard is that's not due to start on the 10th of April. And this, members who are on here, this I've heard since our webinar. The code of conduct is still in draft, so it won't be ready by the 10th of April. The other thing that won't be ready is the state environmental planning policy, which says that even if this place is your principal place of residence, you are capped at the number of nights that you can short-term let, which is 180 nights would be the most that you could short-term let. If it's your principal place of residence, you're living there, or you're a tenant that's living there, letting out other rooms. That law is not due to start yet. The state environmental planning policy is also the law that introduces a new fire safety standard. Now, this is the part, and I said this on Tuesday, this is the part that I think buildings are going to be able to sink their teeth into. And I just spoke to Rob Broadhead from 2025 for the podcast today. We're going to put that one out in a couple of weeks. That fire safety standard is onerous. Smoke alarms in every bedroom.
Yes.
Corridor lighting down the hallways, evacuation diagrams, fire extinguishers in the kitchen, fire blankets in the kitchen, all for apartments where short-term letting is happening. Whether it's an investor owner or whether it's a principal place of residence, the fire safety standard is going to apply. So that is where I think owners and buildings can get creative if they want to deal with the impact of short-term letting in their buildings. The bad news is that's not starting on the 10th of April. Only Section 137A is starting on the 10th of April.
Yeah, so unfortunately, Amanda, in this case, it is an owner who's their principal place of residence, and I think it's for some time now. So I can see there'll be not much comfort from the recent amendments for legislation. The other thing I'd like to talk about is meetings, and many of our buildings don't have resolutions to allow meetings to be held electronically. These are buildings that we inherited a few years ago, and some even recently, where even though that legislation has been around since the end of November 2016, they haven't actually ever passed those resolutions. Now, the Strata Committee meetings, it's easy because you can hold one in writing.
Yep.
Therefore, you can add that motion. But unfortunately, for general meetings, you can't do that. And some schemes are yet to have their AGM. And unfortunately, at the moment, we can't even hold the AGM in any format because people are reluctant, Amanda, to even have meetings at all. So
yeah,
that's been a real challenge for us. I'm not sure if any other managers have had that challenge as well. But that's been a real challenge for meetings where they haven't passed that resolution at a general meeting. Now, I've seen that some Strata managers, Amanda, have passed that at a committee meeting for general meetings, but unfortunately, as we know, the legislation says only a general meeting can pass that for general meetings, and a Strata committee meeting can pass that for Strata committee meetings in the future. So unfortunately, some people may have done it but not done it correctly.
Yeah, it is a real issue. It's something that I started talking about on the podcast 2 weeks ago now. What a different world we are in. Things change fast. The question that I would have for that building, Reena, is why do they need to have the AGM now?
Well, for some schemes, Amanda, even though we've got a whole year to hold it because of the financial year amendment that came in, also it's to do with the fact that levies have to go up, and unfortunately, continuing them at the old rate means that the increase will be absorbed in a very short amount of time. So that's our real concern. It's not that we want to have an AGM. I mean, meetings can be deferred, but it's more about raising enough money because previously some buildings that we've inherited have really come in with insufficient levies. Some buildings that we've inherited have got budgets where the budget is actually in deficit for their admin fund. So I don't know if managers have had this, but we've had so many buildings where for 4 or 5 years, every year they're budgeting for a deficit in the admin fund. So I don't know how that can happen.
Yeah, so you really need to be holding that meeting to raise money. There is no, at the moment, there is no law that prevents people from getting together to have a meeting. You have to abide by the social distancing rules, of course. You'd be best advised to hold the meeting outdoors if you can, and have as the smallest amount of people there possible. Now, we have proxy limits in New South Wales, so we have to be very careful about that. But there may be a way, depending on the size of each building, to offer options for proxy holders. Maybe that's staff, Reena, within your team who can accept directed proxies. So we want the proxy, the owner, to set out on their proxy form how it is that they would like to vote so that their voice is still being heard, and having the smallest amount of people present for this meeting as possible, and certainly passing a resolution at that meeting to allow meetings other than in person for the future. So you're taking that opportunity. I just want to address one thing on that. There's a bit of misinformation going around at the moment in the sector about this resolution. It was published somewhere that you needed to pass a bylaw to allow you to vote other than in person. Not the case, not the case. It is just a resolution at a general meeting if you want to hold general meetings other than in person, and a resolution at a Strata committee meeting if you want to hold Strata committee meetings other than in person. However, with Strata committees, we have always had the option to vote in writing. That's in clause 9 of Schedule 2. I just want to flick over, and Reena's so eager to say something, I can tell by her face, but I'm just seeing Tim is giving a suggestion, I think. Call a general meeting, give proxies to one person, have a motion to approve other means of voting. That person constitutes a quorum after 30 minutes, if not already a quorum, votes in favour, motion passed, call next meeting online by conference. Yes, so Tim, you're saying the only motion on the agenda is the motion to approve other means of voting.
That's what
it doesn't matter that there's no one else there.
Yeah.
You're right.
Well, as long as that's directed, Amanda, because a lot of buildings, not necessarily comfortable with just giving people proxies. So I think that's a great suggestion, Tim. We will put that one to people because, in a sense, I've seen other emails where people say, "Oh, get your staff to have proxies." Well, why should my staff be in a room with other people? Like, if owners don't want to turn up, why are we expecting our staff members to turn up? I had another situation where we've got someone wants to collect the key and they won't collect the key now because they're too worried about coming into an office to collect a key. And
Mm.
so obviously, is it okay for our staff to go into the office and post that key out? Whereas, do you know what I'm saying, Amanda? Like, in a sense, there's a lot of responsibility being put on managers and our team members to do that owners don't want to do. So, I mean, we all have a duty towards our staff and team members to keep them safe. So, I don't know why it's okay for our team members who are also working from home to have to go in, get the key, go to the post office and post it, and the person that needs the key won't come in because they're worried about getting the virus. So
yeah, very true. I was on a call with New South Wales Government on Tuesday afternoon about this issue. I raised it on behalf of the Australian College of Strata Lawyers. OCN's involved in those conversations. SCA is involved in those conversations. We have sent the message that we need something probably down the track that prevents NCAT from invalidating meetings that haven't been held strictly in accordance with the legal requirements. That is what I'm worried about as a lawyer. I'm worried about opportunistic applications down the track that say, hey, you held this meeting electronically, but you didn't have a resolution saying that you could. We need to have some emergency amendments to our legislation or some interim direction, some order that's given to NCAT, and I don't know the bureaucratic process of all of this to make sure that we don't experience the fallout down the track. The problem at the moment, the way the law sits and the case law coming from our tribunal, is that if there is a meeting that is not held strictly in accordance with the legal requirements, it must be invalidated by NCAT unless it is shown that no owner was worse off because of it, which is incredibly hard to prove, So our case law is such that the tribunal's hands are tied. So look, I've sent that message to government on behalf of the College of Strata Lawyers. Whether it's going to be picked up or not, who knows? Still fighting to get a bit of attention to this sector. I'm doing the best I can to bring that attention. But yeah, meetings is definitely an issue. But I really, really like Tim's suggestion there. That is brains for you and creativity. Thank you for that. I think there is absolutely nothing wrong with that approach whatsoever.
Yeah, totally, man. Great suggestion. Thank you, Tim.
One other thing that popped into my head, Reena, when you're talking about your office, what about records inspections? What's everyone doing about records inspections?
Well, we actually have for some time now just been sending a link, Amanda, to all the Strata searches. So we haven't actually had them coming into our office for probably the whole year, actually. We instituted this.
There you go.
Yeah. So
you're prepared.
A link. So it was just fortuitous by chance that it actually worked out for us, but we haven't had searches coming in. We've only had one person who doesn't like using a link, but now, unfortunately, we're not open. So he's got to do it.
Good. Well, there you go. This is going to force these kind of practices on businesses that have been lagging behind. And it's not just strata management, it's the suppliers, it's the lawyers as well. As a lot of you know, I've been doing this for years. My team has been working from home at least 2 days a week. I work from home for 3 or more if I can manage it. I saw a post there from Sean earlier saying this introvert is loving it being in the office. So Sean, I'm kind of, aside from the kids being home thing, I'm loving it too. But you're used to it. You get used to those systems. And this is going to force, Natalie's saying we're all online too, this is going to force those businesses to put in place those practices. And they'll be ready next time they'll be ready to go and shift everybody out quickly. Something that I wanted to raise, Reena, I put on our spreadsheet, the famous invisible spreadsheet. It does exist, everyone. Is this question of strata committees waiving interest on unpaid levies? I started talking about it earlier this week. Other lawyers around the country even have been talking about it. I know Mark Atkinson in WA posted on LinkedIn to say that the interest rate on levies over in WA is 15%. Wow. We thought our 10% was high. But
only you thought it was high. I didn't think it was high compared to a credit card, it's low. And if you don't have equity access or access to funds unsecured, then it's not that much. 10%, like, it's quite cheap, I think, in terms of if you don't have access to capital, then that's not expensive.
Yeah, I love her. She's bloody tough, I tell you what.
Well, I just think to myself, like, I've had people stuff on my credit card and I didn't have money, and that was 20%. So
yeah,
10, then that's fine.
But I did have a couple of managers contacted me when I started talking about this, and they said, "Oh, Amanda, I'm a bit confused. There's some debate in our office about this. Are you sure strata committees can resolve to waive interest?" Now, Reena, you and I have spoken about this on the podcast before, so I was ready with this answer. But Section 85 of our Strata Schemes Management Act in New South Wales, that is where it says that an owners corporation may, by resolution, waive interest, either generally or in a particular circumstance. Now, Reena and I had a bit of a debate on the podcast. I don't have the episode to hand, but we asked each other, is that by resolution at a general meeting? Is that by resolution in a strata committee meeting? And I said, well, look at the rest of that section, because the rest of that section refers to specifically resolutions in general meeting. And I think, Reena, that was in relation to that's right, making it cheaper. So you can resolve in a general meeting to reduce levies by 10% for anyone who pays on time. That Section 85 actually says that, but it specifies general meeting. When it comes to waiving interest, it does not specify general meeting. It just says by resolution. So the guidance that I give is, yes, in my view, strata committees can resolve in a strata committee meeting, and bear in mind, we can have those meetings in writing, to waive interest on levies, either generally or in a specific case. And what the strata managers around me, I know, have been saying is, we're recommending to our committees that they do that, they resolve that for a certain period, be it 3 months, 6 months. You can call a committee meeting on 3 days' notice, so you can always extend that period out if you want to, if that's what you're deciding to do. But otherwise, it's looking like there's no government assistance being offered. We're seeing just this week legislative amendment to allow bans on evictions and to allow rent freezes. The burdens are being shifted to landlords, and I say ultimately the burden is going to be shifted to owners corporations and strata buildings. So you need to be prepared for that, and you need to be prepared for the fact that owners will not be able to pay their levies in full, on time, at all. Reena, what are your thoughts on this one?
In relation to the amendments to the Tenancies Act, the REI has put out a communication to government, because a lot of people think that landlords are rich and therefore they can absorb the, not paying, not receiving rent from their tenants. And we all know that, usually people have a mortgage to pay, they have strata levies to pay. So in a sense, that's going to put a lot of pressure. I have already had many emails from various people already saying, I think I might be losing my job and I can't pay my levies. Now, in one particular instance, that person has been a serial offender for quite some years now. So I think some people may be using that as an excuse. But in other cases, we've actually decided on a case-by-case basis whether we look at the history of the person's payments and whether or not these are legitimate circumstances, or is it just some people opportunistically using legislation and the climate not to pay their levies. Because as we all know, your cleaner has to get paid, you've got to pay your insurance premium. There are certain bills that the scheme has to pay. And unfortunately, for some buildings that don't have a lot of excess cash in their accounts, it's like living hand to mouth in a strata scheme. It's very difficult.
Yeah, and I know there are owners out there, they've been posting in our member forum with concerns about urgent repair and maintenance work not being done, not having the money to do that, directing funds instead to the essential, let's call it essential items, like cleaning and paying your strata manager so they can keep running your trust account, paying your insurance premium. We are, I believe, going to see the knock-on effect of this for quite some time. Sorry, I just want to say to anybody who's coming in, I can see there's quite a few of you there, feel free to post in the comments and let us know, give us a hi, let us know where you are. I'm seeing another Sean there. Yeah, it has to be case by case to stop the opportunist. Yes, I agree with that, Sean, and it's a hard job. It's a hard job for our strata managers, for our committees. And we're going to have to be focused, I think, and strata managers to be up to date. Say, Reena, you just said somebody approached me looking for relief, but I know this person is a serial offender. I've been seeing that a lot. I follow a lot of the property management chat rooms and the Facebook groups for property management, and the poor property managers, they are so swamped right now because they've had this announcement about possible eviction bans and rent freezes, and they have tenant after tenant after tenant emailing them saying, oh, look, I haven't lost my job yet, but, you know, times are tough. I'm not going to pay my rent. Is that okay with you? And they're saying, we don't know what to do. I think every evening we're waiting for more guidance from the government on that issue, and that's what the property managers are saying. You know, we're hanging out in Strata for some kind of guidance, but I don't think it's going to happen. Hi, Gary. Thank you for saying hi. Nikki, we've had plenty of questions about levy payments too, Amanda. Yep. So I think committees need to be aware of what their upcoming commitments are. Are there things that we can put on hold that we wanted to do, the nice to do things? Can we put them on hold? What are the essentials and what is that going to cost us over the next period of time? Nobody wants to see owners who are in financial strife, owners who've lost their job, being pursued for levy arrears through legal proceedings or through letters of demand. Have you got a policy within your business, Reena, or are you talking to each particular scheme about what they'd like to do as that comes up? Have you changed your procedures?
Yeah, so normally what we've done historically, I think most of my colleagues would also attest to the same, Amanda, is that we have our 30, 60-day, 90 reminder. And then after that, we would go to the Strata committee and ask them for advice on whether or not to proceed further for debt recovery action. But what we've agreed in our office now is to basically not even, with the 30-day reminders, go to the committee even on those now and just get their advice as to which reminder letters to send out and which ones not to send out. And again, I think we can look at people's payment history perhaps as an indication of whether the Owners Corporation will and the committee will agree to proceed or not. But we do understand the hardship that people are going through, and I think as managers we all want to support that. But also we know there are people that do take advantage of the situation, and hopefully they'll be in the minority.
Yeah, hopefully. But I agree. It has to be done on that case-by-case basis. I think there's more work in it for you guys. But this is a moment in time. It's just something that has to be knuckled down and have to go ahead with. I am just having a read of the comments. Sean, I've had a committee member who's just lost her job asking if we can change the levies before the AGM. I've told her no. We have to rely on waiving interest and payment plans. They're already putting works on hold. Yes, thank you for raising that, Sean. I've had that question too about should we call an AGM and reduce the levies? I've said no, that's probably not the way to go about it. You are not legally obliged to pursue unpaid levies. The Strata can decide, as Reena's saying, you can instruct your Strata manager, don't issue those notices. You can waive interest through a Strata committee resolution, as you've said there, Sean. I don't really understand why you'd want to go back to general meeting and reduce levies. Simply have a policy instead that you're not going to pursue arrears, or you are going to enter into payment plans. I understand that you do need a resolution to be able to enter into those payment plans, but something I've said when I've looked at these payment plan arrangements is you can establish your own informal, as a committee, you can establish your own informal payment plan about, accepting from the lot owner X amount per month in return for not formally pursuing levy arrears. You just agree that you're not going to pursue them, and you'll take what you can get, what the owner is prepared to pay. That is your informal, if you like, payment plan. So if you can't get together to pass a resolution for formal payment plans, you can definitely do that. Kira Lee, lovely to see you, is asking, has anyone preempted the issues that will arise from having a larger number of people stuck at home, and how to try and deal with them? The high number of resident disputes, dumping of rubbish, parking issues. Kira Lee, how about the high risk of the spread of infection? Yes, somebody has preempted those issues. I have been talking to a few people about that the last couple of days. There might be some media on that in the next few days, trying to draw some attention to those issues. We are all home now. We've all been sent home. I feel that apartment buildings are not being given enough guidance, whether that's from government or from representative bodies, about what we should be doing. I live in Strata, what we should be doing. we have to remember that not all of our buildings have strata managers. A lot of them do not have strata managers. So they don't have someone there saying, oh, hey guys, by the way, I've upped the cleaning and put this notice up, and make sure that you tell residents to report if there's a confirmed case. Who is giving those buildings guidance to make sure that they have all of these issues covered? What are your thoughts on that, Reena?
Yeah, that's exactly what's been happening, Amanda, in many schemes where some people think, well, we can't keep wiping down the handrails every 5 minutes because some people want that to happen. And then other schemes have had their cleaners coming in more frequently, like the larger buildings especially, with extra rubbish, Amanda, and people parking illegally. All those sorts of problems are actually exacerbated at this time. But I think, in a sense, when you talk about guidance from the government, I mean, I just find that, yesterday you could, or the day before, hairdressers could only have a 30-minute session, and the next day it's removed. So I'm not really sure in terms of how you would try and regulate buildings and how often they need to have cleaning done. I mean, some buildings have wooden staircases you can't use, alcohol, wood, and there's always a different, sort of challenges that I think buildings face, which is unique than, say, an office block where you can put a hand sanitizer at the front and everyone has to use it and they use their elbows to press the lift. But I mean, I think that rubbish, people not dumping their rubbish, a lot more rubbish being obviously occurring because of people staying at home and noise. I had today a noise complaint from one of my strata schemes with, what do I do? And I said, well, get the tenant to write to me. So I think people being at home, I think people are far more, I'm not sure if any of you would be experiencing this, but I think people are far more, I think because of their fear, they're far more, I wouldn't say short-tempered, but very quickly, maybe the word is more appropriate. I'm finding that people ring you and it's like if you don't answer them straight away or you don't respond to an email that they sent, less than 24 hours before, they're getting very upset about it, which I think normally wouldn't be. I think also people are at home. So when you're at home, you've got a lot of time to look at what's wrong with the building, and we're getting emails like, this hasn't been done. It's like, well.
Not sure that now's the time.
Yeah, exactly. Because they're at home, Amanda, and they don't, they're in front of you. Like you go downstairs and you can see something's not right. Whereas before, you're on your way to home, when you're on your way to work in the morning and night, you probably wouldn't have noticed things. So it's actually bringing certain personality types to the forefront.
Yeah, how interesting. All of these issues. I'm just hearing a rattling at my door, so I might have a child and maybe a dog in here shortly, but they can join in. It's all good. Now, there are some excellent conversations going on in the chat here, and I just want to draw them to everybody's attention. Brandon asked, have we any responses from councils regarding fire safety statements and extension for submissions as access to lots will be an issue? And Megan, who I know is at City of Sydney Council, has said, I've got an answer for you, which is great. And I'll come back to you, Nathan, but I'll just scroll down to Megan's answer. City of Sydney, in terms of AFSS submissions, if an owner is experiencing or expecting delays as a result of building access issues for contractors, the city will consider a stay of PIN application, which effectively suspends the due date. And a decision has been made to waive the fee associated with that application for 12 months. Go City of Sydney. I heard the exact opposite. I think it was through one of the fire guys today. I heard the exact opposite, that a council said, no, we are not. We have no plans to offer any extensions or waive any fees. Nathan said he's getting a 1-month extension from his council as well. Be good to know who that was. Their attitude was too bad. Oh, sorry, we had a council discussion asking for a 1-month extension, but their attitude was too bad, needs to be done. Yes. So City of Sydney, you're the first one I've heard that's doing that. Good on you. Hi, Phil, who's in Warners Bay. Lovely to see you. Natalie's had trouble with councils giving extensions, now connecting directly with the mayor. Thank you for sharing all of that. That's a really important topic to discuss. Kira Lee saying 100% agree. I think that's with you, Reena, about what's going on when everybody's at home. There's not enough guidance for our industry. Yeah, and my pleasure, Kira Lee. Thank you for the thank you. I am not calling for any mandated legislation, any strict legal requirements. A fact sheet would be nice. something, a checklist, some guidance, some suggestions. And I know that some strata managers are doing that. I know some buildings are doing that. I know that there are fact sheets and posters available on the health websites, but specific to apartment buildings. As you've just rattled off there, Reena, we have specific concerns, and I know there are committees out there who are we are overwhelmed by having to move our work from our home. Some people are losing their jobs. Some people don't have the income coming in anymore. For some people who do not have a professional strata manager, the last thing on their mind is caring for the common areas and making sure that they're properly sanitised.
I think, Amanda, I was just going to mention that Nikki has said that SCA has put out a best practice guideline, so that might be helpful.
Excellent. I'd love to, if there's a link to that, Nikki, would you mind posting it in? I have seen some of the stuff SCA has been putting out. I've seen it mostly directed to members, and we have to dig a little bit to get access to that. So if there is a guideline that is for non-member, for everybody, that would be awesome. I can see Megan's posted a link for OCN as well. Thank you so much. So this is great, guys. I love it. Barbara, does anyone have any practical ideas about how we can minimize virus transmission risk in a strata building? We have 25 units. Our lift is less than 4 square meters. Should we recommend only 1 to 2 people in a lift at a time? Should we encourage people to use the stairs? Great questions, Barbara. All great questions. My building is very similar to yours. It's a little bit bigger, but we've got 1 lift and it is small. I'm not sure. I think you can suggest perhaps only 1 to 2 people. Don't think. There's 4 people there and we all jump in because we're all going down and that's what we're used to. But maybe some science. It's just a sign up suggesting for social distancing purposes, perhaps only 1 or 2 people in the lift at a time. Yeah, encourage people to use the stairs. There was a question a couple of weeks ago when all this was just breaking about whether lifts should be shut down. I don't think you should be doing that. I don't think you should be doing that. There'll be people who won't be able to get access to their property without the lift. So the common sense approach, but these are all great things to be talking about. And I just think that communication is key here. Putting up those signs, sending the emails out to residents, making these suggestions, having a look at those OCN guidelines, the SCA guidelines. I can see Megan saying there's useful guidance for COVID-19 and strata living from, sorry, yes, OCN, I've got the 2 links there. Joe is saying he recommends 1 person per lift ride. Yeah, sounds good. I think, Joe, you're in facilities management, so that's good to hear from you. Sean, I'm finding people are at both ends of the scale, very polite and understanding or completely off the scale in terms of expectations. Yeah. Nikki, thank you. That's the SCA link there. Everybody check that out for their guidelines. Megan, thank you. A PIN is a penalty infringement notice. Got it. That is no pins for late annual fire safety statements in the City of Sydney Council area. Thank you, Megan. Henry, the important thing for strata managers is to be proactive and reassure rather than reactive and legalistic. Personally, I would not worry about government guidance and work together as a complex. Yep, excellent. And the fact that you're here, Henry, and tuning in and being proactive, you are not the one. You're not the one that I'm talking to that needs the guidance. Put a sign in the lift, says Tim. Use your keys to press the buttons. I like that. Keep a person's virus to themselves. I want to know what you're drinking today, Tim, because I like your emojis. What have you brought to happy hour? Lovely to see Darren from Precise Property. And wear disposable gloves before entering the lift, says Joe. And yes, there's sensible advice. I think I've actually shared the OCN guidelines, and I also on this Facebook page, and I've also shared something from SCA today as well. I'm not sure if it contained those guidelines, but I will look into that and share those directly if I haven't already. Okay, wow, so much that we've covered, so much to talk about. Reena, was there anything jumping out of all of that while I take a breath, unusually for me, that you wanted to dig deeper on?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention, I think, in terms of people's behaviour in buildings, Amanda, as you mentioned, I think Sean said it, some people are actually like quite helpful and other people are quite off the scale. But I think gyms, all our buildings have closed their gyms, but unfortunately people still have the access with their swipe, and certain residents are still using the gym. So we're now going to a lock on the gym now. I'm going to change the lock. So I think just for those out there in strata world, you can see that some people still won't do the right thing even when there's signs saying don't use the gym. And I'm sure like that makes our job much more difficult, and building managers as well. So yeah, unfortunately, yeah, people's behaviour, I think, as I said, the camaraderie and the helpfulness comes through predominantly, but there are a few challenges that we still have to face as managers.
Yeah, and I think if we keep talking about those, bringing them to light, that's a really good point about swipe access still to the gym. That reminds some of our other strata managers maybe to check on that. Yes, our gym should be closed. I'm not sure. You have to dig a little bit deep into the legislation to work that one out. But yes, any sort of group fitness area, I'm not sure the exact terminology, needs to be closed. I'm not sure that stretches to pools, but most public pools are closed because they're connected to fitness centres. But I'd be closing the pool as well. If I was the strata manager or the building manager of the committee making that decision, I had a pool, I'd be closing it. Just because it's an area where people are coming and going. You've got change rooms, you've got toilets, just one less thing to have to worry about.
Yeah, exactly, Amanda. One less thing to worry about.
Yeah, well, we've got so much. Brandon saying, any advice on lifting proxy limits as yet? I don't think that's going to happen, Brandon. It's something that I talked about a couple of weeks ago, and I think Chris Duggan, president of SCA New South Wales, mentioned it in one of his communications, that it was an option for assisting our New South Wales buildings to hold meetings. We have the limit in New South Wales: one person can hold one proxy in a building of 20 lots or less. More than 20 lots, one person can hold the number that's equivalent to 5% of the number of lots. I don't think that's going to happen. There are some, maybe some fairness issues around that might get too complicated for that kind of emergency legislation. I'm not sure if you were here, Brandon, when we went through Tim's comment about how to hold a meeting, and he was suggesting convene a meeting with the only motion on the agenda being a motion to resolve to hold electronic meetings or meetings other than in person. Even if only one person attends that meeting holding one proxy, then there's no quorum, but in New South Wales, within 30 minutes, you can go ahead with the meeting even without a quorum, and that one person can vote in favour of the motion to approve electronic voting, and the meeting ends, the minutes are issued, and away you go. Your next meeting can be an electronic meeting. I thought that was very clever. So scroll back up and check that comment there from Tim, who's an experienced strata manager. Henry's saying it's important to keep air conditioning and air ducting serviced and sanitized as well. Yes, in our newer buildings where you've got ducted air, that's a big deal. Natalie's saying some people have a sense of entitlement like the Bondi Beach people. Yes, well, we have seen the new epicenter of the virus is apparently those areas, which are very close to home for me. So yeah, we need people who are caring and compassionate and aware. Joe's saying shut the gyms and pools. Yep, absolutely. And Sean is saying one resident wants a cut in levies due to closing the gym and the thing you guys have to deal with. I tell you what. Natalie's seen that one. It's coming. It's coming. Sorry, comments are moving around here. How can a committee agree to a different payment process that was passed at a general meeting of the Owners Corporation? That's from Precise. I'm not quite sure what you mean there, Precise. That is, you've agreed to pay quarterly levies. So the quarterly levies are due on a particular date. Our legislation says if they're not paid when they're due, then interest accrues and arrears can be recovered. My guidance was if you don't want to recover the arrears or you decide not to at that particular stage, you don't have to. I can see Reena.
Yeah, what I want to mention, I think I know what that question relates to. Some buildings, Amanda, don't want any payment plans. They've passed resolutions at their AGMs not to have any payment plans proposed. I think that's what the question relates to, not about the quarterly levies, etc.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm not sure I agree then that a committee, you may resolve to say we don't want payment plans, but then a committee decides, or a committee is inactive. It doesn't do anything about levy arrears. That's not imposing a payment plan. That's just not doing anything about levy arrears. I suppose that then raises the question, is there a resolution? Is there an earlier resolution that they would do something about levy arrears? Interesting question. Go back and check your minutes of last meetings. Have you all resolved, as I know so many buildings do, that we will pursue unpaid levies. Oh, God, this just gets deeper and deeper, doesn't it? Thank you, Precise Property. Very good question, and more for us to think about. There's something else. Sorry, it's in my head. A strata manager asked me this last night about waiving the interest. A strata committee waiving interest on levies. Can they do that even where interest has already accrued and is on the ledger? My answer to that was yes, I believe they can. The interest has accrued, it's on the ledger. It can just be reversed if the strata committee makes the decision that no interest is to accrue. Do you agree with that, Reena?
Yeah, I think that's correct, Amanda. I think it's like a retrospective approval in a sense that anything that's already accrued to date is actually reversed. Maybe it needs to be worded in that way. Yeah.
Yeah. Certainly not if it's already been paid. If it's already been paid, then we're not giving refunds. If owners have paid their levies with interest because that's what was billed to them, and then they're coming back to you saying, oh, you've agreed to waive it, you might have to be careful with your resolution there just to avoid that confusion. But we're not giving refunds to anybody. We're just deciding to waive interest, whether it is for the future or whether it's already accrued and is on the ledger. Have a think about that. Brandon saying, thank you. I've attempted to assist owners by providing a voting form to which they can convey all votes for each motion with the proxy appointment to myself as a strata manager. Not sure how it will pan out. Yeah, I think that's Brandon following Tim's suggestion there. Nathan saying he had a similar question about a shared area. When I asked her to get 25% of people to call a meeting, she declined. Yeah, not quite sure what that one's about. You're talking about a requisition there for a meeting.
Yeah, I think in terms of calling a meeting, as per Tim's suggestion, only the secretary can call a meeting, or the committee by resolution can call a general meeting, unless the agent has delegation to do otherwise. So again, agents just can't go calling meetings unless they have that in their agency agreements, or they have the right authority from the secretary or a strata committee resolution to do so.
Yeah, or a qualified request being your
the 25%
that Nathan's talking about. Yep.
He's talking about.
And Precise, thank you. Just clarifying, yes, Reena, you're hit the nail on the head there. We're talking about levy arrears and payment plans. Really good question. I hadn't thought, and I know those motions are so common. General meeting resolutions where you have committed to recovering arrears. The strata committee can't act contrary to an owners corporation general meeting resolution. So check those. You may be convening these general meetings other than in person for the purpose of changing your position on that. Yeah, so maybe this deciding not to recover levies and deciding to waive interest is more complex than first meets the eye.
I think so, Amanda. I think it's on a case-by-case basis of each building, how they've worded their resolutions at general meeting level.
Yeah, love it. Sorry, I should say, love the complexity. The intellectual part of me, the lawyer in me, the human being in me is bloody exhausted. You see, that's the human being.
I know that, Amanda. You're not saying you love levy arrears.
Sorry, what did you say?
I know you're not saying that you love levy arrears. You're saying that you love the complexity and the challenges.
Yes. Oh, and I don't love all of you being challenged and owners having to work through these difficult times, but we're here. We're here to help. We did this last Friday, and I had my special guest Heidi Denning on the show. It's the happy hour show. If you haven't caught that one, do head back. It's on the page. You can go and catch that one. It was lots of fun. I've been drinking less wine this time around, but my cheeks are hurting from talking so much. So that's probably why. Next time I'll drink more wine and talk less. But it is 5 o'clock here in Sydney. It is Friday afternoon. We are going to wrap up. Thank you so much for joining us again. I ran this happy hour for the second time this week because you wanted it. You asked for it. You told me that it was helpful, that you enjoyed it. If you let me know that again, then hey, I will be back here next Friday. I think I better check the diary, but I will be back here next Friday. If Reena wants to join in, she is more than welcome. And I would love to see you all here. Let us know how we can help you, what your questions are. We can do a roundup of questions at the end of the week that have come through. You're all thinking the same thing. You're all asking the same thing. You're all dealing with the same problems. And if we can be a source of information and support and guidance for you, then that is the least that we can do in these unprecedented Unprecedented times, challenging times. All righty. Anything else before we wrap up, Reena?
I just wanted to wish everyone a happy weekend. I know that we're probably going to be just going for walks perhaps, but at least enjoy.
Enjoy indeed. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Reena.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.